everyone, Tammy Klinger, also known as Artie Tambarambaa, and today I'm sharing another bright, colourful page using the new Art by Marlene products that have just been released. And this one I thought I'd have a go with those gorgeous new luxury paper people. So I'll go through what I'm using. So of course I've grabbed my luxury paper people, I've just popped them in a little box. And then I've grabbed the new art journal, and these have got the smooth pages in them, the thick mixed media paper. So I'll grab a page out of the handy sized journal, and I'm using the new watercolour paints. So I'm using a mix of both acrylics and watercolours, but yeah, love those new watercolour paints. I'm also using the sticky quotes, and I will use the paper, there's new scrap paper, which I just love, and in that specifically is my favourite piece, and I thought, yep, let's go with that today. And then looking at that piece of paper, you can see there's lots of scallops in it. So I grabbed out this stencil. My stencils from this collection haven't arrived yet, so I grabbed an older stencil from the sophisticated range, and then I'm using the one-way ticket stamps. I'm also using some of the paper elements, the new ones, the booklet, and of course I've grabbed some black and white washi, because what goes fabulous with colour is some black and white, plus the new brushes and some of the old brushes and some of the new sponges and the sticky glue, and then some acrylic paints. So I've got Lace, Sky, Hot Curry, Happy, Envy and Ballet, and if you have a look at those next to the paper, I basically just took inspiration from that paper and grabbed a few paints to match. Okay, so let's get started. So I've grabbed my page out of my album, and then I just tore off a corner, and what I thought I'd show you today is how I use some of Marlene's paper where she's already done the idea and gives you the bouncing off point, and how I then match that with, you know, stencils and paint, and how I hide it. People often ask me about that, so I thought, oh, let's do a page using that. So basically I've just torn an edge off. I didn't think about it, I just tore a bit off and glued it straight onto my page. Now I have a look at what colours are sort of coming off the edge where that tear is, and I can see some of that gorgeous blue. So I use Sky for that, and then there's some yellow in the page, and I want that to continue on, so I add a few pops of yellow, and then I add some of the orange that I can see in there. And with this technique, I'm just using my fingers, I'm just adding a bit here and there. I'm thinking about what colours I am putting next to each other, because I don't want to create some mud. For example, if I put green and pink right next to each other, I would get some mud. But if you do get a little bit of that, we can cover that up later, so it doesn't really matter. So just get some colour down, and I like to use my fingers because I just find I can blend it out a bit easier. So now I've grabbed a wider flat brush and added a bit of pink just straight onto the page, and then I've come in, I've kept that paper next to me as a reference point just to inspire me, and I can see those little white dashes. So I grabbed some white paint and did a few really tiny dashes with some of the new watercolour brushes, which are great because they've got a fine tip. And then I'm coming in, I decide to add some more of those teal colours, and I use the watercolour paints for that. So I just grab a few of the blues and greens and just do a few more mark makings. So now I grab out one of the circles from the one-way ticket. This has got some awesome backgrounds in it, but instead of using acrylic paint, because I've used acrylic paint in my background, and once it's dry I decide to add these on with watercolor paint, and I like the way it's soft on your page. So for a really busy page, and I'm trying to continue that busyness on, it's not too bold, it gives sort of a subtle pop of color here and there. So I'm doing it with the circle, and then I use the little crosses and come in with some, I think I did some white paint as well with that, and I was trying to emulate some of those little scribbly stars that are in the background there that you might be able to see. So now I just rub some of the ballet, the pink, straight onto some larger areas, and working very quickly I pop my stencil down and I pull that colour off with a wet damp baby wipe. And you can see that makes all the difference because I've gone across the torn part. So I've put a little bit on the torn area where the paper is, and then I've added a little bit to the bit I've just added. You know what, does that make sense? Just to continue it through so it really hides that line. So now using the black and white washi, first I thought I'd just do a few, but I decided to make him look like he's standing on the scallops. So I really like this man. I love the look on his face, and he's playing with paint, and yeah, so I decided to go with him. And I know I'm going to put him on the side because it just leads itself to that. And then I simply grab some of the black and white stripe, which I love, out of the Paper Elements book. And I just trim that down into halves and then pop a little bit on two sides of the page. And that just ties in that black and white scallop as well. And because some of him is black and white, it just makes it all work. So I've also come in with the little barcode from that ticket stamp set, and this time using black ink, and I've done the same with another circle as well. And I've kind of got that circle to continue up across the page. Just again, some on the paper that was Marlene, so I'm adding to that, and some on the background that I'm preparing, and it just gives the illusion that it's all just a sheet of paper, that you haven't made half of it up yourself. So now I decided to add a bit of colour, so I added a little bit of aqua, and then I decided it needed some green, so I'm just deepening that up just with some acrylic paint, so using the Envy there. Now, constantly looking back at that sheet of paper, and I think, yeah, I just need to add a few more little dashes and dots and things like that. So I do that, and then this top corner, I just kind of had I don't know if it shows up on camera, but it was a little bit muddy. So just to fix that, I come in with some bolder colour, and again, lift a little, just pop a bit down and then lift a bit off with your stencil. So as I said, that's a really good way to hide any parts that you don't really love. So before I stick my man down, I'm just grabbing a quote, and I grab one that says, "Of course I talk to myself when crafting. I need expert advice." So Marlene's quotes are always a bit fun and really suit the whimsicalness of her products. I love how they just all work together, you know, the old, the new, everything. So I'm really happy with where I've got it at the moment, and don't really feel like it needs much more. So I stick the man down, and then I just go around the edge of the stickers with a pen, and I also notice there's a sort of a bubble happening in the background, so I just try and emulate that and add a few circular, not fully circles, but just a few sort of arches in there as well. Then I finish it off with a few more of those crosses, but I do it in the black. And then finally a few flicks of white paint. So that gives me the basically I'm mostly done. But I do decide, because it's quite busy, I'm just going to busy it right up again. So I add in some more of sky and just do a few mark makings. And then I decide that this guy, so he doesn't quite look just plonked onto the page, I want him to stand out a little bit. So I'm actually using the watercolors, and I'm using the black that's in there, and I'm just going right around the edge of him just to create a slight shadow so that that will bring him forward off of the background. And now, so it doesn't look like I just went around it in black, I do come in with some blues, and I mix a couple of the blues to make it a little bit darker. And I just go around again and sort of blend that out, bring it a little bit further out, wiping some off as I go and just adding a bit more. And it just kind of means that shadow, there's a strong shadow around him, and then it blends off into the background. So hopefully you can see that in the close-ups here, and I think it does help him just stand out off the page. Look at those gorgeous pants. I just love it. So this was a really easy page, something I do all the time with the blending the paper through. Lots of fun. It can totally switch off from all that's happening in life. So I'll be back again soon. But until then, leave me a message. Thanks everyone. Bye.